Austin Harrouff was an ordinary young man from a well-to-do family in Florida. He grew up in a picturesque suburban neighborhood, surrounded by the warmth and comfort of a close-knit community. His parents, who were both successful professionals, provided him with every opportunity to succeed. He had a promising future, excelling in academics and athletics. Austin was not just a bright student. He was also a talented athlete, participating in various sports and earning accolades for his performance. His teachers often praised his dedication and hard work, seeing in him the potential for greatness. Friends and family knew him as a kind and gentle soul. He was the type of person who would go out of his way to help others, always wearing a smile that could light up a room. His friends cherished his loyalty and his ability to make everyone feel included and valued. He was a beloved son, a loyal friend, and an aspiring physician. Austin's dream was to become a doctor, a goal he pursued with unwavering determination. He spent countless hours studying, driven by a desire to make a difference in the world and to help those in need. No one could have predicted the horrific act he would commit. The transformation from a promising young man to a figure of horror was as sudden as it was shocking. It left everyone who knew him grappling with disbelief and confusion. On a humid summer night in August 2016, Austin's life took a sinister turn. The air was thick with humidity, and the quiet of the night was shattered by an act of unimaginable violence. It was a night that would forever change the lives of many. He brutally attacked and killed a seemingly random couple, John Stevens and Michelle Mishkon, in their garage. The brutality of the attack was beyond comprehension, leaving the community in a state of shock and mourning. The couple, known for their kindness and generosity, became the tragic victims of a senseless act. This gruesome act shocked the nation and left a community reeling. News of the crime spread quickly, with media outlets covering the story extensively. Vigils were held, and the community came together in an attempt to find solace and understanding in the face of such horror. The details of the crime were deeply disturbing. As more information emerged, the true extent of the violence became apparent. The community, once a picture of tranquility, was now haunted by the memories of that fateful night. Austin, reportedly in a drug-induced psychosis, exhibited bizarre and animalistic behavior. Witnesses described his actions as those of someone completely detached from reality, driven by forces that were beyond their understanding. It was a chilling reminder of the potential dangers of substance abuse. He was found gnawing on the face of one of his victims, displaying a level of brutality rarely seen. The scene was so horrific that even seasoned law enforcement officers were left shaken. It was an act that defied explanation, leaving many to wonder what could have driven Austin to such extremes. This is the story of Austin Harrouff, a young man who went from promising student to accused killer. His journey from a bright future to a dark and tragic end is a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. It raises questions about the nature of mental illness and the impact of drugs on the human mind. It's a story about mental illness, the devastating consequences of substance abuse, and the thin line that separates sanity from madness. As we delve deeper into Austin's story, we seek to understand the factors that led to this tragic event and to find lessons that might prevent such horrors in the future. Austin's childhood was seemingly idyllic. He grew up in a comfortable home, surrounded by loving parents and a close-knit family. He excelled in school, showcasing a sharp mind and a thirst for knowledge. However, beneath the surface of normalcy, there were subtle cracks in Austin's facade. He was described by some as being introspective and prone to bouts of anxiety. He struggled with feelings of inadequacy, always striving to meet his parents' high expectations. These internal struggles intensified when Austin went off to college. The pressure of academic success, coupled with the newfound freedom of being away from home, proved to be a dangerous combination. Austin's behavior became increasingly erratic. He experimented with drugs and alcohol. Seeking solace from his inner turmoil, he became withdrawn and isolated, pushing away friends and family who were concerned about his well-being. Austin's descent into darkness accelerated during his college years. What started as occasional bouts of anxiety and stress soon spiraled into something far more sinister. The pressures of academic life, combined with personal insecurities, began to weigh heavily on him. He found himself increasingly isolated, unable to connect with his peers or find solace in his studies. He He began to exhibit signs of serious mental illness characterized by paranoia, delusions, and grandiose thoughts. His friends noticed a change in his behavior. He became withdrawn and suspicious of those around him. Conversations that once flowed easily now felt strained and disjointed, filled with cryptic remarks and unsettling claims. He spoke of having supernatural powers and becoming a mythical figure. These delusions gave him a false sense of purpose, a way to cope with the chaos in his mind. He believed he was destined for greatness, that he was chosen for a higher calling. This belief, however, only served to alienate him further from reality and those who cared about him. His substance abuse escalated, further fueling his mental decline. What began as a means to escape his troubled thoughts quickly became a crutch he couldn't live without. The drugs provided temporary relief, but they also exacerbated his symptoms, making it harder for him to distinguish between reality and his delusions. He dabbled in a cocktail of drugs, including marijuana, hallucinogens, and prescription medications. Each substance offered a different kind of escape, a different way to numb the pain. But the more he used, the deeper he sank into his own mind, losing touch with the world around him. The once promising student was now trapped in a vicious cycle of addiction and mental instability. His grades plummeted, and he stopped attending classes altogether. The dreams he once had of a bright future seemed like distant memories, overshadowed by the darkness that now consumed him. Concerned about his well-being, Austin's family tried to intervene. They noticed the drastic changes in his behavior and knew something was terribly wrong. They reached out to him, offering support and understanding, hoping to guide him back to a healthier path. They sought professional help, hoping to pull him back from the brink. Therapists, counselors, and doctors were consulted, each offering a different approach to his treatment. The family attended support groups, learning how to cope with the challenges of having a loved one with mental illness. However, their efforts were met with resistance. Austin, deep in his delusions, saw their concern as an attack on his autonomy. He believed they were trying to control him, to strip him of his newfound identity. Arguments became frequent, and the once close-knit family found themselves drifting apart. Austin, convinced of his own invincibility, refused to acknowledge the severity of his condition. He saw himself as a misunderstood genius, a visionary ahead of his time. This delusion of grandeur made it nearly impossible for him to accept help or recognize the damage he was doing to himself and those around him. Despite their best efforts, Austin's family watched helplessly as he slipped further into the abyss. They felt powerless, unable to reach the son they once knew. The pain of watching him deteriorate was a heavy burden, one that left them feeling hopeless and heartbroken. His once bright future was now shrouded in darkness, his potential overshadowed by the looming spectre of mental illness. The dreams and aspirations that once defined him were now distant echoes, replaced by a haunting reality that seemed inescapable. Austin's story serves as a poignant reminder of the devastating impact of untreated mental illness and substance abuse. Section 4. The Night of the Tragedy. A Gruesome Discovery. On the evening of August 15, 2016, Austin's inner demons reached a terrifying crescendo. The day had started like any other, with the sun casting a warm glow over the quiet suburban streets. But as the day turned to night, a dark cloud seemed to settle over Austin's mind, obscuring any sense of reason or sanity. He stormed out of a restaurant following an argument with his father, leaving his phone and wallet behind. This wasn't just a simple disagreement, it was a heated confrontation that left Austin visibly shaken. His father, concerned and bewildered, watched as his son walked away, not knowing that this would be the last time he would see him in a state of normalcy. His behavior was erratic and agitated, a clear indication that something was terribly wrong. Witnesses later reported seeing him muttering to himself, his eyes darting around as if he were being pursued by invisible forces. It was as if he was trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. Driven by forces unknown, Austin made his way to a quiet suburban neighborhood in Jupiter, Florida. The streets were eerily silent, the kind of silence that precedes a storm. Neighbors were settling in for the night, unaware of the impending horror that was about to unfold in their peaceful community. It was there, in the sanctity of their own garage, that he encountered John Stevens and Michelle Mishkon. The couple, enjoying a quiet evening at home, had no idea that their lives were about to be irrevocably changed. They were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. What transpired next was a scene of unimaginable horror. The tranquility of the suburban night was shattered by screams and the sounds of a violent struggle. Neighbors, hearing the commotion, hesitated to intervene, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. Austin, fueled by a cocktail of drugs and delusions, brutally attacked the couple. His mind, twisted by substances and paranoia, saw enemies where there were none. The ferocity of his assault was beyond comprehension, driven by a rage that seemed almost inhuman. He used his bare hands, a knife, and even a gardening tool in a frenzied assault. The tools that once symbolized care and cultivation were now instruments of destruction. Each blow was delivered with a force that spoke of deep-seated torment and madness. When authorities arrived at the scene, they were met with a bloodbath. The flashing lights of the police cars cast eerie shadows on the walls, illuminating the extent of the carnage. Officers, seasoned by years on the force, were visibly shaken by the brutality they encountered. John Stevens lay dead in the garage, his body mangled beyond recognition. The garage, once a place of safety and familiarity, was now a scene of unspeakable violence. The sight was so gruesome that it left even the most hardened officers struggling to maintain their composure. Michelle Mishcon was found lifeless in the driveway, a victim of Austin's senseless rage. Her body, lying still under the cold night sky, was a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The driveway, a mundane part of everyday life, had become a tragic symbol of a nightmarish reality. Section 5. Inside the Mind of a Killer, Delusions and Cannibalism. As investigators pieced together the events of that horrific night, they were confronted with a chilling detail. Austin wasn't content with simply killing John Stevens and Michelle Mishcon. When deputies arrived at the crime scene, they found Austin in a state of apparent psychosis, growling and making animalistic noises. He was on top of John Stevens' lifeless body, biting and chewing on his face in a grotesque display of cannibalism. This act of cannibalism sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. It painted a picture of a killer driven not by human rage, but by something far more primal and disturbing. Austin's mental state at the time of the crime became a central focus of the investigation. Was this the act of a cold-blooded killer, or the result of a mind consumed by madness?